The Spinoff Podcast Network.
This is Kiwi is back for a brand new season with more inspiring kōrero from special guests including rugby player, father and role model TJ Perenara.
My family bring me joy. Rugby brings me joy too, but it's not the same joy as my family brings me.
And global dancer and choreographer Kirsten Dodgen.
For some reason, people think I'm very intimidating.
Listen to the new season of This is Kiwi, brought to you by the Spinoff Podcast Network in collaboration with KiwiBank. Available now wherever you get your podcasts.
Kia ora, I'm Alex Casey, senior writer at The Spinoff. We wouldn't exist without the ongoing support of our generous members. If you're able to, you can make a donation at thespinoff.co.nz/donate.
Kia ora, Anna Rawhiti-Connell here. I'm a senior writer and the head of audience at The Spinoff, and I'm subbing in for Madeline on Behind the Story this week as she takes a well-earned break. Today I'm talking to The Spinoff's newest writer, Lyric Waiwiri-Smith. Lyric started with us 2 weeks ago and has 3 stories under her belt for us already. Her story this week, remembering Suzanne Paul's cursed Māori Village, marked 20 years since Paul closed the doors on her Māori cultural theme park on Auckland's North Shore. Lyric was 3 years old when it all went down, so used records of journalism past to piece together a new record of that venture, described as the most significant event in Paul's demise, to create a new view of how we might see something like that today. I wanted to speak to Lyric about whether the internet truly never forgets, how her love of pop culture and media influences her view on news events and reporting, and most importantly, live blogging trying to buy tickets to Taylor Swift's Eras concert in Melbourne last year. Here's Lyric Waiwiri-Smith on Behind the Story. Welcome to Behind the Story, Lyric. How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. You started with the Spinoff just 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
How's it been?
It's been really good. Everyone here is super nice. We had a free Nando's lunch, so that was mean as. And yeah, beautiful office, beautiful vibes.
That's good. Is it how you imagined it would be?
Yeah, pretty much.
We are a cliche.
Yeah, I thought that if I came here, I'd have more of a chance to work on my writing, and that is, exactly what I've been able to do, so that's great.
Oh, that's perfect. You've done 3 stories so far for us over the last 2 weeks. And your story this week, remembering Suzanne Paul's cursed Māori Village, which has been very well read. You were 3 years old when that particular cursed venture opened and the events surrounding it went down. What prompted you to reopen that box of weirdness?
Because someone told me about it and I was like, that's not true. I've never heard of that in my life. But it was true. And then I went down a rabbit hole and just became obsessed because I like the thought of Suzanne Paul opening up a Māori village, it's too good to be true, but it did happen. I was only just a toddler, so I wasn't there myself. I wish I could have been there. And it's just one of those can of worms. I feel like New Zealand pop culture, there's so many strange characters and their strange lives, and this is just one of them.
Yeah, it's a particular thing I think we do well at the Spinoff, which is that kind of remembering when and digging out kind of those weird, deeply buried worms from our pop culture history. How useful, I guess, was the internet in terms of it functioning as a memory of that event? Because you said that there are kind of gaps around, in your piece, you talk about the fact that there are sort of gaps around this particular event. And especially when it comes to Paul talking about her own kind of history. So how, did the internet kind of perform really well as a source of our collective memories, or was it quite hard digging things out?
Well, when you actually Google, Rawaka Māori Village, that's when, all those old articles from the Herald pop up. But, in reading a lot of Suzanne Paul little short bios or bits about her life, it's in 2005, she went bankrupt for some reason and then built herself back up, which is so hilarious. The way it's sort of framed was damn, just a little blip in the finances, and then she was back on the telly on Dancing with the Stars. And then there's not a lot of photos from the venue itself, so I can't even really visualize how it would have looked. There was a Sunday Star Times piece I quoted, but I couldn't read it in full because it just exists in print. So I wish I could have read that full story. So it was kind of difficult because it's a time period where I think, I don't know, I was just a baby at the time, but it seems not a lot of the news that was published in New Zealand was really online yet.
Yeah, there is kind of a weird gap I always find between kind of using something like Papers Past, where a lot of our print newspapers are, and then kind of the internet. And it's also a little bit, not quite pre-social media, but there wouldn't have been a lot floating around, because I would imagine Twitter would have had a field day with something like this.
Oh my goodness. If Suzanne Paul launched her Māori Village in 2010, things would be different for sure.
I'm not sure it would have even got off the ground, to be honest. As part of piecing this story together, which you've essentially kind of had to do by drawing on the information that's available, you read Michelle Hewitson's profile of Suzanne Paul, which Paul initially turned down doing because she was worried about negative press. Hewitson's profiles were particularly famous for a while. They were kind of must-reads on the back of the Weekend Herald. Often quite a lot of her in them, but quite brilliant at times. How did the one that she did on Paul stand up when you read it?
I kind of felt a bit bad for Suzanne, because there's a part where where Michelle's written something oh, she loves the camera and she has no shame in that she loves herself. And I'm oh, well, can we really fault someone for that? I didn't actually know a lot about Michelle herself. Obviously, I'm a bit young, but it was definitely colourful, and definitely. There's a funny part where she writes about Suzanne recreating a moa being attacked by an eagle, which is
it's great.
Just gold. Yeah, just gold.
Do you think, having read Hewitson's profile, do you think that kind of profile writing is still possible these days?
I hope so. Maybe it's wrong to say I hope so, but it was just so good. I feel when you take the veil off of a celebrity and they're just kind of like us, that's the perfect thing. But also, Suzanne's, she clearly wasn't comfortable at first with letting Michelle into her orbit. And I feel that's something that's really common with a lot of celebrities now, is they're very hesitant to let a journalist into their life, and because you don't know what they'll write. Maybe they'll write, "Oh, she loves herself so much," but I really like profiles like that when the veil is removed and you just see that they're a person.
There's been a bit of commentary around how hard it is to do good celebrity profiles these days, because they are quite hesitant, and also because of social media, they kind of manage their own relationships with fans and the public in a completely different way now. Have you got any favourite celebrity profiles that you've read lately?
Ooh. I read the Lena Dunham one because I was just the one that was in the New Yorker this week because I was shook that she's not directing the Polly Pocket movie anymore, and also because I love HBO girls. Whenever I read a celebrity profile, it always feels like they're holding something back, and also it's to promo something else, or it's like, that maybe their publicist got in touch with the journalist and they pitched something like, oh, she's releasing a new project and she'll talk about this, and there's probably a lot of caveats and what you can and can't ask them about. So that kind of thing is tricky. Yeah.
What led you to writing about entertainment and pop culture?
It was just something that like how young lads love a bit of football, like that's pop culture is my sport. It's love the players, love the characters. It's such a fascinating thing because it changes all the time, and then there's just little tidbits that you've skipped over, like the fact that Suzanne Paul had a Māori Village at one point. Yeah, entertainment is, and it's something that everyone loves, and like it's objective as well. So, music and film and television and art. And then it's scandalous. It's super accessible because now we have social media, so celebrities feel like, I guess to some people they could feel like a mate. You see so much of their lives. But still you don't know what is real and what's not.
How does your love of pop culture, I love that you've described it as your sport, because you also write about other things. You write about business and you've written about politics. How does your love of pop culture, I guess, impact how you tackle subjects that might not traditionally be viewed as pop culture?
Well, I kind of feel like politics is a lot like pop culture because, like, you have those key high-profile players, their public lives, and instead of making art, they're making laws, which just still greatly impacts, our day-to-day. And then business that's a lot of writing about people and, like, what they do as well, how that impacts sort of our society as a whole. Yeah, I feel like anything that kind of dictates our day-to-day. I feel like pop culture maybe seems a bit silly because maybe it's a bit vapid to some people, but it can dictate a lot of what we're listening to on the radio and what films become box office hits and what don't, and the books we read or don't read. So I feel like there's a lot of there's actually a lot of links between these things, I feel.
Yeah, there's a lot of crossover. I think we've we see it every single day, but I think yesterday you kind of had the George Clooney op-ed in the New York Times about Biden and whether or not he should still be the Democrat candidate for the presidency. And then, of course, Christopher Luxon is in the US at the moment, and he, I think in a bid to deflect commentary about Joe Biden's presidency, decided that his kind of in on the pop culture kind of political intersectional conversation of the day was to cast police minister or to cast George Clooney in a hypothetical movie about police minister Mark Mitchell's life.
Yeah.
That feels like a perfect example of what you're talking about.
For sure. Like, if George Clooney is the man that brings down Joe Biden, I don't know what to say. And, like, I feel like maybe he could. Like, people trust George Clooney just based on the fact that they see films that he's in and they're like, wow, he's good. He definitely has political opinions I can trust as well, which is, interesting.
And he's married to a very high profile.
Yes, this is true.
Quite credible, highly important woman.
She definitely knows a lot about politics, I would say.
I think that's really helped him in terms of his political credibility.
That might be it, yeah.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about something that I know you love deeply, and you're not going to be surprised about it. And it's obviously in the realm of entertainment and pop culture, but I think just as we've kind of talked about, there's so much bleed between kind of business, internet culture, pop culture, politics and that kind of thing. And this particular person feels like she is often at the heart of all of that kind of stuff. So last year, you live blogged trying to buy tickets to Taylor Swift's Eras concert in Sydney? Melbourne. Tell me about that, live blogging that process.
Well, it was a funny thing to pitch, for sure. But it ended up being, because I did that for Stuff, and I think it was one of the most popular stories on that day. Because everyone, I felt like a significant amount of Kiwis would be trying to, be in the same mess as me. So it was literally just 8 hours of me being at my desk and watching the ticket queue load and load and load, going on social media and finding updates from Ticketek saying this section has sold out now, and then you get the fan reaction, and then you get the comments in the blog, and you can interact with people. It was really fun, and it ended with someone buying me a ticket. So I was like, job well done. I achieved exactly what I set out to do.
So you didn't actually manage to get a ticket yourself, but somebody was following the live blog and got you one.
Yeah, that final hour of the live blog, I was like, in my head, I was like, there's no way I'm not seeing Taylor Swift on the Eras tour. It's like watching Jesus read out the Bible. You know what I mean? I can't miss that. And then it looked like I was going to miss that. And I was like, no. But a very lovely reader bought me a ticket. And I went, and it was the best. It was the best thing ever.
That is amazing. And you obviously are, I think it's fairly obvious by now, but a huge Taylor Swift fan. And I would argue now probably one of our preeminent Taylor Swift journalists.
I feel like I deserve an honorary PhD in Taylor Swift studies. My encyclopedic knowledge of that woman's life is on point.
Incredible. All right. Well, it's been great chatting to you about the internet and Taylor Swift and Suzanne Paul, and strangely, all of it seemed to weave together incredibly well. Thanks so much for being on Behind the Story, Lyric.
Thank you for having me. Yay!
That was staff writer Lyric Waiwiri-Smith on Behind the Story. Madeline will be back next week with another Spinoff writer and another Spinoff yarn. Thanks for listening.
Talofa lover, I'm Madeline Chapman, editor at The Spinoff. If you have the means, consider supporting our high-quality journalism by becoming a Spinoff member. Sign up now at thespinoff.co.nz/donate.
Kia ora e te iwi, Te Aihe Butler here, podcast manager at The Spinoff. If you enjoy listening to our podcasts, consider supporting our mahi by signing up to become a Spinoff member at thespinoff.co.nz/donate. The Spinoff Podcast Network.